Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for October 6, 2016. We're going to proceed even though we're down a member. Our first order of business is call to order, and if you have your cell phone with you, you might turn it off right now so that it doesn't make a lot of noise, and I'll see if I can find mine real quick and do the same. Okay. Our first order of business is to, or would it be the second order of business? Would be to accept the minutes of the September 15th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the September 15th meeting. Would you cast your votes, please? The motion passes. Will you flip Kevin's switch? Thank you. We'll proceed to the public hearing. We do not have any items on the consent agenda this afternoon. So we'll move to the items requiring separate vote. I guess we do have a continuance request.
We do have one continuance request. Item number one, case number 14224, is requesting continuance to the October 20th meeting.
Is there anybody here to be heard on item number one, case number 14224? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue case number 14224 to October 20th.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I understand that they've kind of worked this out, but they're just finalizing their documents and so forth?
They've got everything worked out. They're getting some paperwork drawn up, getting it signed, and they should have everything ready by the 20th.
Great. Okay, so I have a motion and a second to continue item number one, case number 14224, until October the 20th. Would you cast your votes, please? And the motion passes.
Item number two, case number 14263, request of James Trent Smith for a variance to the minimum 5-acre lot size in the AA Agricultural District located at 5921 Holtzman Avenue.
Is the applicant present on this item? Would you come forward, please give us your name and address for the record and tell us something about your request.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is James Trent Smith, and I live at 5921 Holtzman Avenue. And we have a little over 9 acres, and we're hoping to split it kind of in half. Where that pond is on the south side, the water drains catty corner across the property. It drains about 150 acres, so there's really no utilizing one side or the other, or both, I'm saying at the same time. There's an existing house that I own right to the bottom. Yep, that's north-south. So on the right-hand side is the existing home. We're hoping to split that off kind of the way the water drains, where I'd have a nice wide lot to the west, 350-foot wide. That would put me about almost 300 feet from the existing home, plus 300 or 400 feet at least from the existing home to our west. We have a PUD just 600 and something feet from that property that has 3/4-acre lots. I think they're on phase 4 of their addition. There's 1-acre lots across the street and about a half a mile down in Cypress Cove. I'm hoping that we're close enough, almost 10 acres to cut in half, but that's what we're planning to do, is ask to split that lot so that we can have a home site there that would face 59th Street.
And is it your intention just to offer the other lot for sale? Is that it?
Do what?
Is it your intention then just to offer the other lot for sale? Is that the
Existing
idea?
home, yes, we're going to sell our home.
I checked with staff. I'll just tell the members of the board the split of the lot to this size would not interfere with the suggestion of usage for the property by the OKC plan. So what they're proposing to do would not result in a smaller lot than would be consistent with the plan. Is there anybody else here today who wants to be heard on this matter, case number 2, or item number 2, case number 14263? No? Do I have any comments or questions from the board members?
If there's no objections, I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 2. Would you cast your votes, please? And it passes.
Thank you very much.
Item number 3, case number 14264, request of James and Judy Libby for a variance to the minimum 150-foot lot width required in the AA Agricultural District located at 12525 North Douglas Boulevard.
Is the application present? Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, I'm John Bachman. Our address is 12525 North Douglas Boulevard in Jones. And this is James and Judy Libby, my in-laws. And we have about 11.2 acres. At some point in time, a little corner was taken out of our, before we bought it, and so now we only have 150 feet of frontage on Douglas. So we're asking for a variance to allow them to put a home on the far east side of that property. Our home is on the far west side. So we don't need another driveway or anything. We just need a variance to allow them to put a home there.
I'm not sure I completely understood that. You don't need another driveway.
No, there's a driveway off of Douglas that goes back to our existing home. And it's the same driveway that they'd use to go to their home. So we're not asking to put another driveway in. We're just asking to put another home in.
Okay. The only unfavorable consideration was with respect to the number of driveways, and I visited with staff about that. It's just about putting too many curb cuts onto the arterial, so.
My only comment is I think staff did mention maybe the board could require that they share the frontage driveway as a requirement of this particular variance. I would be inclined to be in favor of that.
Would that be problematic for you if the variance were limited in that way?
No, that's what we want. We don't want another driveway.
So is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 3, case number 14264, with the caveat that it have a shared driveway and not another curb cut onto Douglas. Would you cast your votes, please? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 4, case number 14265, request of Hearts of Hearing for a variance to the number and square footage of signs in PUD 128 located at 11500 North Portland.
Good afternoon. My name is Collins Peck. I'm representing Smith & Pickle Construction on behalf of our client Hearts for Hearing. My address is 13415 North Santa Fe Avenue in Oklahoma City. And today we are requesting a variance on the number of signs and size of sign for a project we have located between Hefner and 122nd. East side of the facility is on Hefner Parkway, west side is on Portland. And we currently have a feature wall in which signage is designed to be replaced. And we want to put an identical sign on the north and south sides of that feature wall so that traffic can see north and southbound, see the sign when they're driving along Lake Hefner Parkway.
Did you have to have this property zoned before you guys started construction? Did you have to have the property rezoned, or was it zoned appropriately?
It was zoned appropriately.
And there haven't been any other variance requests made at the site that you're aware of?
No, sir.
Is there anybody else in the audience that wants to be heard on this matter? Item number 4, case number 14265. Have any other comments or questions from members of the board? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 4. Would you cast your votes, please? And it carries.
Thank you.
Item number 5, case number 14266, request of James Boswell for a variance to the minimum number of sign type and square footage in the DTD 2 Downtown Transitional General District located at 901 West Sheridan Avenue.
Is the applicant in the audience? Would you come forward, please? Give us your name and address for the record and tell us about your application.
My name is James Boswell. Address is 1400 South Trenton. I'm the architect on the project. We're requesting a couple of variances for proposed signage. If you want to pull up the exhibits. Project's located at the corner of Fred Jones and West Sheridan. Immediately to the north is the recently opened 21C Hotel in the original Fred Jones manufacturing building. We're the two warehouse buildings just to the south of that. So we're proposing a rooftop sign to give us some visibility. The proposed developments around us are going to be 4 to 5 stories tall. Try to get some visibility. Our building sits property lines. We're kind of limited on where we can do signage. We're also proposing a blade sign on the corner, along with some signage on the awnings on the south side of the building. Staff did a pretty good job summarizing our request. DDRC voted to approve this. Staff comments said they don't typically support requests for increase on signage, but thought this was appropriate for this project.
I will comment that we don't often get letters of support for sign applications.
Well, we try to work with the neighbors around, so the residential group supported it, 21C supported it, which they'll be mostly impacted from their hotel rooms, and then the developers of the Sunshine Store, cleaners, are in support of it. And that's one of the, as you know, there's some rooftop signs in the downtown, midtown area, and Sunshine is one of the ones that is in the immediate area.
Is there anyone else today who wishes to be heard on this matter?
We had several letters of objection, too, that expressed concerns, and I think, most of them dealt with issues that are not before us today. But is there anybody present that wishes to speak on this matter?
Why, out of curiosity, the rooftop sign being 178 square feet, why is 150 square feet not adequate?
We really want to get some visibility because of the parapet height and stuff like that. We were hoping that we'd get even visibility from 40, but we just thought it was proportional to the size of the building, the size of the venue, and the size of some of the other rooftop signs.
If this is approved, would it be limited to the design that they're showing us?
So, JJ, when you say yes, you mean that in the event that this becomes a multi-tenant building, in order to have additional signage, another variance request would have to be sought?
It would be a different variance request because they've exceeded the square footage. So yes, I think they would have to come back.
Otherwise, they'd have to give some portion of their approved signage here to another.
Correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion to support the application.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 5, case number 14266. Would you cast your votes, please? And it is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 6, case number 14267, request of Michael Weaver for a variance to allow access to an arterial street when access is available to a local street in the AA Agricultural District located at 12600 North Henny Road.
Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Mike Weaver, and address is 1725 Dena Drive.
And tell us about your request.
I
went to pull a permit, and I was told that I needed to go around the back side, which is 710 feet, and then actually I would have to go about 360 feet to the back corner of my property. Going back to the corner, there are some pictures that show that it washes really bad. It would be a hardship to keep up 360 feet of road that I'm the only one that uses. I don't know about the other 710. There is a gully there. When I started this right here, I got a hold of the county, and the county put a horn in for me off of any road. So I do have a horn right now. And on that, I have, from that, I've made a driveway all the way back, about 270 feet, and then cleared land for a house. And there is in the center of it, there's a flood zone, so I've put the house where the flood zone it would be out of the flood zone, kind of on the edge of it. Coming around the back, I would have to cut through the woods and put a driveway over a flood zone, approximately 470 feet, plus the 360 feet, that road that I would have to put in and maintain. And so the variance is what you see here. Actually, this is the original drawing for my permit. And the driveway and the land is all cleared. I have a horn put in already, and I'm looking for a variance on from the dirt road, washed out road. As far as it getting in the way of anything, this road a quarter mile south ends into 122nd, and 122nd ends into it, so it's just a corner right there. I was out there one day, and a neighbor came by in a big tractor and stopped for 45 minutes an hour. And stopping there, I counted the cars, and there were 7, 8 cars that came by. So there is no problem with any traffic as far as the, and I understand an ulterior road off of Broadway Extension, trying to turn into that. This is a rural road that was, I'm sure, decided a long time ago, and I think they just went every mile. And this is, I'm asking you guys to look at this because of the circumstances.
May I ask staff, is it possible for us to limit the variance, if it's granted, to the existing zoning on the property? So that as long as it stays AA, the variance is in place? Maybe we should be asking legal. I mean, my question really is whether it's less problematic because it is so densely developed, and whether we might feel differently about it if it were going to be subdivided into urban lots, and so whether there's a way to address that.
If that were to happen, this variance would only allow the one driveway to this lot. They wouldn't be allowed to have any more.
Okay. So if anybody else wanted to take access from that driveway, they would have to be down here and seeking variances of their own. Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to be heard on this item number 6, case number 14267? Members of the board have comments or questions?
I move approval.
A second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 6. Cast your votes, please. It's approved.
Thank you so much.
Item number 7, case number 14268, request of Jared K. Steig for a variance to the front and corner side yard setback in the R1 Single Family District located at 1340 Northwest 17th Street.
Is the applicant present? Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Brian Durbin. I'm Jared's designer. Address is 1340 Northwest 17th Street. We're requesting 2 variances. The first is the side setback off of Douglas Avenue. It seems that side setback is slightly wider there than it is in other properties of the same nature, so we'd like to encroach 5 feet into that with the structure. That adds to and helps with the efficiency of the design that we're proposing for that lot. The second request that we have is to move the structure 10 feet north into the 25-foot setback, purpose being considering the point of the structure of that house, or that the structure on the front of the house is the tower, is pointed. We want the predominant face of the house to be more in line with the adjacent houses so that as you're looking down the street, it'll be in line with all the other houses as opposed to this sudden setback on the corner.
As you're looking down 17th Street.
Yeah, we're going to face 17th Street, yes.
I had a question. There's not a site triangle issue with this case, is there? I mean, these encroachments into the setbacks don't create any safety issues. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to be heard on item number 7, case number 14268? Members of the board have questions or comments?
I would move for approval of the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of item number 7. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you much.
Item number 8, case number 14269, request of Joseph and Cynthia Rydell for a variance to the side and rear yard setback in the RA single-family 1-acre rural residential district located at 15015 Bay Ridge Drive.
Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Riedel. I live at 15015 Bay Ridge Drive in Oklahoma City. And we're asking for relief of the 25-foot setback on the side of the properties. We can meet it in the back, but not on the sides because of the unusual shape of the property, the pie shape. If I go up, if I try to bring it forward on the property towards the house, there's about a 1.5-foot drop because the property is terraced. Beyond that is where our aerobic sprinkler goes out, and you can see there's a pipeline on the bottom of the property there, bottom of the house, so we can't build over there because of the pipeline. So we're really kind of restricted on where we can put this.
We did have a letter of opposition that indicated that you had made an application to your Homeowners Association Architectural Review Committee and had been denied.
My understanding when we talked to the representatives was that it was approved if we could get approval through you. It was denied because of the setback, basically, but because it was a city setback. But if we could get your approval, it was okay. Now, apparently that may have been a misunderstanding on my part, because if we would have understood that they opposed, we would have never set out the $1,200 to do this.
Well, let's find out. Mike Thompson has signed up and asked to speak. Mr. Thompson, would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Mike Thompson. I live at 15225 Bay Ridge Drive. I'm on the board of directors of the HOA. We basically objected to Mr. Rydell's building location due to the fact he was violating the 25-foot setback. That's an issue to us because basically we've denied other people, myself included, locating structures inside the 25-foot setback.
I think one thing that we can...
We have it in our covenants that we follow the city variance requirements. And on that basis, we have denied multiple requests.
So,
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think Mr. Rydell did misunderstand the meeting that he had. He was advised that his building structure would be okayed and he could proceed if he located it inside the 25-foot setback.
I see.
Not that it was okay if he got a variance from the city of Oklahoma City.
So my question to you, I guess, would be whether your concern is simply that you view your role as upholding the setbacks, and therefore you had to deny it, or whether we would be letting you off the hook if we approve it instead, or whether you have a separate concern just about the compliance of structures with setbacks generally that would lead you to disapprove it, whether or not the covenant.
The board has enforced the setback multiple times. And for us to, well, we're not, I guess you guys can override, I guess, the HOA's determination to enforce those covenants. And one of the questions I had, does the HOA's covenants and guidelines supersede this governing body? I don't really know the answer to that.
Well, they're very separate. Your restrictive covenants are actually in the nature of a private contract between all of the people who hold property subject to them. And they are enforceable by anybody else who's subject to them, and usually also by their terms by the HOA itself. That's sort of one thing over here. Over here, the city has its own standards for setbacks, side yards, front yards, backyards, and it's not really uncommon, I will say, and those are shown on the plat, and of course the city approves that. And it's not really uncommon for restrictive covenants to bear some sort of boilerplate or common language that, you know, that the city's standards will be upheld. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the city is in any way taking on the enforcement of those restrictive covenants, or on the other hand, that whatever action the city takes would affect the ability of the HOA or any private resident to enforce them separately.
And we don't expect the city to enforce our covenants and guidelines. We would like to be able to do that, which we think we are doing by denying the building request located inside the 25-foot setback. The building request was fine, provided it was moved out of the setback.
I will tell you that our function here is to look at cases on a very individual basis to see if, in a particular case, it is appropriate to give someone leeway or exemption from or a variance to the standard that would be applied across the board. If, for instance, there's something unusual or peculiar about the lay of the land or the way it's situated, you know, on a piece of property that we think makes the enforcement of the city's norm inappropriate in a particular case, then we're here to grant a variance to someone who can meet those standards.
And our only concern as the HOA board is that we be able to enforce the restrictions and covenants that we've already enforced on other residents. I mean, that's our issue.
I totally get that. Does anybody else have any comment or question they want to make about that?
I would just like to note the unique configuration of this lot, and I applaud your homeowners association being active and you know, actively attentive to your covenants and restrictions. But the unusual shape of this lot, and it doesn't look like there's any other lot that's configured this way in the neighborhood. And so under those circumstances, I could understand, you know, enforcing strictly the setback. But for me, you know, the shape of this lot gives him some justification, you know, for his request, not only of the
There's plenty of room inside the lot. If he just moved a few feet, he would not be out of compliance.
Let's give the applicant a chance to address that.
Thank you.
Now, as I stated, there is no other place I can put it. I can show you, I've got pictures I didn't know I could include it in here, but because of the lay of the lot and the pipeline and all the rest, there's really no other place.
Well, let me ask you a couple questions on that. So I'm looking at an aerial of your property on a map that's a little bit better than the aerial that we're looking at on this screen here and what's in front of us down here, okay?
Yes, sir.
And it looks like you've got some elements in your backyard that are up against that that back fence where you're proposing to build this building already, and then you've got some elements that looks like a garden and like a landscape bed of some kind closer toward the house.
Correct.
And you're saying that the area in between your landscape bed and your garden area, and if I go west to your back property line, I come to 2 circles on the ground. Are those planters of some kind? You got some planters in your corners?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So those planters, you're saying the area that's in there, the grade is so severe, the change in grade is so severe that you can't put a structure there unless you move it all the way back to where you've proposed. And you have to move it that far back.
And that's part of it. There's also a tree line on there where the ridge is, and there's 6-foot pine trees spaced every 10 feet, I believe.
Those are trees that you planted?
A couple of years ago, yes, sir.
Okay.
Let me ask, is there anybody else here today that wants to be heard on item number 8, case number 14269? Do you have any other comments or questions from members of the board?
May I make one more comment, please?
Sure.
There's only one more thing. If I'm only asking, in lieu of what they said about the 25-foot setback in the government, number one, I can't find it in there, but we can look at that later. I was on the architectural committee and for a while back. But if we get your approval, I will address that with them then on a separate issue. I understand there are 2 totally separate issues.
Okay.
So that's it.
I'm a little bothered by it, only because I think you sort of created the problem, right?
No, sir, not on.
To some extent, there's a little bit of that, a little bit. But I understand too that this is a very, and you're right, we do have the plat, we can see the area of the lots. This is very peculiar for the area. I will support the application. I'll make a motion to support the application. But I want to echo our chairwoman's point that you got a public issue, that's why you're here, and you got a private issue, and that's standing behind you.
I totally understand.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 8, case number 14269. Would you cast your votes, please? Motion carries.
Item number 9, case number 14270, request of Amy M. Vatek for a variance to allow access to a private easement in lieu of a public or private road and to permit an accessory structure located in front of the home in the R1 Single Family District located at 8400 North Kelly Avenue.
My name is Floyd Eason. I live at 3929 Pearl Way, Del City. I'm a friend of the family, and this is the family right here. This property was originally purchased in 1949 as a 15-acre tract. Chase, sitting here, grew up on the property. That's Amy's dad. This has been family-owned since, continuously. Her sister lives to the west of her on the same area. Another sister lives to the west of her. So it's a whole family area type thing. Amy was deeded the 2 acres to build the house on so she can continue the tradition and raise her children in the same area where she was raised and her father was raised. She just wants to continue that tradition. The problem comes from a common access private road, a private driveway. Access has been granted and been filed with the county, giving perpetual access on that street. Excuse me, it's a private driveway. So she has access through her dad's property and through her sister property and brother-in-law's property. So she has access there. The problem being she doesn't have frontage on Kelly. And we think this circumstance, if we can get the variance for the access for not having frontage on Kelly, she can build her home there and raise her 2 kids. She's a single mom raising 2 kids, and the property was given to her through the family. The second issue is the outbuilding in front. Basically, it's a metal storage building, and where she wants to build her house is kind of on the edge of the horse pasture. Her family owns all the land around her. The building that's there has been there for some time, and it's not going to, you're not going to be able to see it from the city. If you notice how heavily treed all that is, you can't see anything back in there from the city. It's not going to provide an eyesore. It's not going to be an issue where, because there's a metal building sitting near the house, it's not going to be an eyesore issue. You'd have to be overhead to see it. So that's why we're asking for the variance.
Is there anybody else here today who wants to be heard on item number 9, case number 14270? Do you have any comments or questions from members of the board? I will point out a rather good summary at the bottom of the information that the applicant submitted, that there's already a driveway in place, that the cross-access agreement is in place and has been filed with the county, and that the home and the storage building are not visible from any public street. So, do you have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the application.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 9. Would you cast your votes, please? It's approved.
Item number 10, case number 14271, request of Asia Highsmith for a variance to the maximum 4-foot front yard fence height, maximum picket width, and minimum picket spacing in the DTD1 Downtown Transitional Limited District, located at 916 Northwest 6th Street.
Sir, good afternoon, Asa Highsmith, 301 North Harvey, Suite 100. The basis for our request for a variance on this project is that really we believe that the downtown design overlay requirements on fencing, I think they make a ton of sense. We do a lot of projects downtown. I think the openness and the visual opacity of a lot of the fencing that goes in downtown is required to make it a good place for pedestrians and a nice place to be. We think the unique aspect of this property is that we are trying to put in a patio that fronts 6 lanes of traffic. And it ends up being a lot like, I think, the Starbucks patio you might see on a service road. In that case, rarely used, not a nice place to be, pretty brutal environment for people. So we see this as following the rules or the design guidelines in this case creates a hardship for our business. The patio will not be attractive for use, impacting, of course, the business's sales. Our request is pretty minimal, I feel. We're asking for an additional foot of height, and we're asking for additional enclosure of the fence so that we get a buffer visually and audibly from, those 6 lanes of traffic on Class. That's kind of the gist of our request today. I'd be happy to take questions if you guys have any thoughts.
First of all, let me ask, is there anybody in the audience that wants to be heard on this item, item number 10, case number 14271? Members of the board have comments, questions?
We note that DDRC has approved this, and if there's no objection or further discussion, I'd make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 10. Would you cast your votes, please?
Cool.
It is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 11, case number 14272, request of Orthopedic Associates, Inc., and for a variance to the number and square footage of signs in the O2 General Office District, located at 3301 Northwest 50th Street.
Hi, I'm Cindy Thompson. I'm the CEO of Orthopedic Associates. Do you need my home address or just the business address?
Anyone you want to give us is fine.
3301 Northwest 50th Street. This is our architect, Rachel Mott, and she's with Health Facilities Group, and she's going to talk about
Okay, we were hired by Orthopedic Associates both to improve the exterior of the building as well as the interior. They're two separate projects with two different building permits, and the project has been approved just from a building permit standpoint. The signage, we would like to, that's one of the main problems, that we feel like the building exterior currently has no signs on it at all. And because of a lot of the traffic that's in that area, it's definitely a need that needs to be fixed as part of this exterior remodel project that we're working on. We would like to, we are requesting today that we be able to have two signs for the reasons outlined, that we have a lot of traffic coming from both directions. It's a very busy intersection. We have some pictures showing how much the building is blocked by all the traffic coming both ways. So the only thing that you can really see is the very top of the building from most of the time. And there's nothing on the building currently at all. So something is definitely needed to help the visitors to this facility actually find it. So we're requesting that two signs be approved. We're not asking for an exception on the size of the sign. Both of these meet the size statute. It's really just the quantity. The quantity, they don't meet the size. I was under the understanding from our sign designer that they met the size statute.
I don't think so. But
This is a remodel of an existing building that is a well-known destination.
Good.
And there's a light where you turn north on Independence, you come right off Hefner Parkway, and I'm going to have trouble supporting this variance request because the request is so far over what's allowed. And to me, the building does not have a huge setback from 50th Street. It's a well-known destination. I don't know what the existing signage was before the remodel, but I'm by this location almost every day. And so, I'm going to ask you to reconsider your request and to bring us something that's probably more appropriate in terms of what's allowed.
Just to clarify, since there was some discrepancy, I mean, you've requested a total of 255 square feet, and what the code would allow here would be 92.5 square feet.
Okay. Is that, okay.
And that's total signage square
So
footage.
you're taking both of them, adding them both together. Okay. If I could ask about there is two businesses that operate out of this building. They're two totally separate legal entities. So one of our requests was that each of them be allowed to have a separate sign. If the signs were kept within the 92 square feet, that's required.
Well, let me ask you this: the application is from Orthopedic Associates. Are you saying that they run two separate businesses out of that?
There is a doctor's clinic and there's an ambulatory surgery center. So there are two separate.
But this application doesn't concern them; it concerns Orthopedic Associates. Am I correct?
I don't know what the names of the two entities are. If it needs to be reworded and it needs to be resubmitted.
Are they located on the west side of the property?
They're both in the same building. The clinic is on the first floor and part of the second floor, and the ambulatory surgery center is Orthopedic Associates Ambulatory Surgery Center, so they have the same name.
Yeah, I mean, it appears to me that all we're dealing with right now is your application. That would be a separate issue, the signage for them.
Okay, so if we were to revise, because again, you requested that we revise it and rethink it. If we do that, is it possible? I guess I don't know how to present it for two different entities.
I understand. I think what Mr. Austin is trying to encourage you to do, maybe the thing to do here might be to take a continuance request and revise it. I mean, could they do that, take a continuance and revise it, as opposed to having to reapply and go through that? So give you some time to reassess your signage and come back to us.
Because what you're asking for is over twice what's allowed. And so I would, you allow us to offer you a continuous request. It allows you to go back and to reconsider your signage. You might look at what the signage was on the existing building before the new construction started and bring us something back. But what we're going to consider is, the building does not sit that far back off of 50th Street. It is a business that's been existing and is known. And we want people, to be able to find the business reasonably. But to me, the request for this much signage is excessive, taking into consideration what's allowed. So that's what we would suggest, is that you take a look at how much signage you come back and ask for.
Okay, so we would request a continuance. Thank you.
May I ask of staff, or may I should ask you, is there other signage on site besides the signage on the building?
There is a monument sign. It's out, it runs perpendicular to the building, and it is really close to 50th Street. And I did bring some pictures. And to be honest, I'd been there like 5 times before I ever saw it. It's always got cars that are parked right next to it, and if it's not a car parked next to it, there's cars that go by. It's very low to the ground, and it's the height of a pickup truck. So the preference would be to get it up higher on the building and eliminate the monument sign, because obviously the signs on the building would be more visible.
And I would concur with that because, you've got a parking lot between 50th and the building, and there was signage on the building before you started the remodel. And we're not arguing that that's an appropriate way to identify your building. Perhaps the scale and the size of your request to be reconsidered.
Well, I'm actually, that's actually even more confusing because in O2, you're allowed a sign, a monument sign or building signage, correct?
You're allowed one monument sign and one attached sign per street frontage.
Oh, okay. I thought it was an either or. It's not an either or.
Not no two. Okay. No one and
So
another.
my fellow board members will tell you I'm no big fan of signage, but I will say this about this particular sign. It seems to me to be fairly minimal in its design. It's not, a big flashing billboard or, an EMD sign. It's not a sign that is intended to or in any way competes for notice from, like, Kepner Parkway. It really is a sign that is just to permit people who are navigating a very, very busy intersection to get them as best they can into this site. I don't know whether you'd be willing to give up your monument sign in order to leverage a larger wall sign, or whether other members of the board would think that's a good idea. But I agree, your request on its face, is more than twice what you would be allowed, so it's a little bit hard to bite down on that. But I think if you take some time and give it some thought, you can maybe come up and work with staff. I'm sure staff would be happy to work with you, see if we can come up with something that's a little more palatable. So how long would you like to take?
Well, we would like to get this solved probably as quickly as possible, so I don't know if it's 2 weeks.
We'll be back here in 2 weeks.
Okay, actually, that's
October 20th is the next meeting here.
Okay, if that's possible to be on that meeting, we'd like to do that.
Okay.
I think we can get it resolved by then.
I'll make a motion to continue case number 14272 to October the 20th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue item number 11 to October 20th meeting. Would you cast your votes, please? It is continued.
Thank you.
Item number 12, case number 14273, request of Jean Lavastida for a variance to the corner side yard setback, structure being over 2.5 stories, minimum frontage and number of parking spaces in the R3 medium density residential district located at 1138 and 1140 Northwest 13th Street.
Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Byron Morris with Prime Architects, 710 Asp Avenue in Norman.
Tell us about your request.
So there's 4 parts to the request. The first part being to be able to encroach on the 15-foot setback from the Klein right-of-way. That right-of-way is 100 feet, which is twice what is average for a street of that size. And we're only requesting a minimal encroachment of 5 feet, which would be the minimum that we would need to be able to fit the building footprint on the site. Given the other side yard setback, we can't push it any farther back. There's also the 2.5-story height limit. We do have a 3-story structure. However, it is within the 35-foot limit that's also listed in the same table. The site parking, there are 12 parking spaces provided. They're just not site parking. They are tandem garages. The 2 buildings each have 3 units in them, and the first floor of each unit is a tandem garage providing 2 parking spaces. So that would allow for 12 parking spaces in total. And then the final part is the requirement that the lot width be 100 feet for any structure that is going to have more than 2 units in it. Our 2 lots side by side are only, they're 100 feet together, but since they are separate lots, they're only 50 foot apiece. And the table that comes from lists 100-foot lot width for anything above 2 feet, not because you could have a development of quite more than just 3 units, but that's all we're seeking for is just 3 units, and we would even agree to, if it just wanted to be restricted to that, that would be fine with us.
Do I understand that this project's been redesigned a little bit?
Yes, since the letters of objection that were filed, we've had contact with the neighborhood association, and I even have, I don't know if it's already been made available, but we revised a site plan based on their main objection of having parking off of Klein so close to the street, so that we move the parking into the back on Building B, and I can make that available if you'd like.
Would you please? I have not seen that. And I don't think I'll ask here, is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this matter today? I have 2 people who are signed up. Jason Sylvester.
Yes, I'm Jason Sylvester. I live at 1121 Northwest 12th Street. At this point, I no longer have any objections to it. My objections were specifically to the drives that were off the west side of Building B, which have been revised accordingly. So I think, is that drawing the same one you passed around? Yeah, so you guys are looking at the updated, so I don't have any problems anymore.
Okay, so this is property that, or this is a piece of the parcel that would have been green space that's now concrete, is that right?
Yes, we're swapping it out for the green space we would have been moving at the time.
But that gets you access off the alley instead of off of Klein. Okay.
Our main concern was just that the drives on the west side would be so close. I mean, with the 3 drives right next to each other, you'd have a large curb cut area, and then in addition to, you've got the 2 spaces within each garage, but in case, anytime they had a visitor or something like that, I mean, there's a car blocking the sidewalk at that point, and with the school down the street, we've got a lot of, kids that walk to and from, and at that point, they've got to walk into the street, or so. They've been very accommodating, so we don't have any other concerns with it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And then is there a Jessica Thompson here?
Jessica Thompson. I live at 1414 Northwest 14th Street in Oklahoma City. I'm the vice president of the Neighborhood Association, and I was able to talk with Byron one-on-one and discuss some things that were of issues, just like as Jason repeated. And according to the Neighborhood Association, we all agree that this is it's fine now.
Okay, so your concerns have been assuaged as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Members of the
Did
board?
she say she ma'am, I'm sorry, did you say you represented the association?
So there are no outstanding letters of objection that were submitted. All of them, all the people who have spoken today have resolved any of our objections that we received.
It would appear so.
I just want a clarification. How much, now with your redesign, how much parking will we have, and what will be the sidewalk accessibility for traffic flow?
So what's on the screen right now is what we would have. We're not changing the amount of parking that will be provided. The tandem garage parking that's on the first floor of Building B is still there. It's just the door has been moved from the Klein side to the back side of the building, and which would allow an unimpeded, we won't have any drives for that building crossing the existing sidewalk, or the sidewalk that will be constructed.
Other members of the board?
If there's no objection from anybody else or other comments, I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item number 12. Would you cast your votes, please? It is approved.
Thank you.
I do believe that may be the end of our agenda. We don't have any board committees, do we? Or are there board members who have comments, or?
I would make a motion to adjourn, if there's no objection from the...
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Cast your votes, please. We are adjourned.